Hello and welcome everybody to the Casual Spikes podcast. I am your co-host Dakota, aka Crawdaddy23, here on YouTube. Joining me here, as always, is Randy over at Modern with Randy. Randy, how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty well. Got to watch the Magic Championship whole thing, so that was fun.
Yeah, as we can kind of attest to right now, the World Championship, I believe, as of the recording of this, is finishing up day one, and we're definitely going to be talking about what happened at the World Championship next week on the podcast. Just because, at least for me personally, I don't think there's any point in necessarily us discussing like the what ifs and whatever when we can just like fully review the tournament next weekend when the podcast comes out. But there were some pretty interesting announcements made during the MagicCon event that's going on in the Pro Tour. And so we're going to be looking at a lot of the bigger announcements that we got from all of this stuff happening. It's crazy. There was so much stuff. I was like, Randy, we got to talk about it. And then we started just like going through and compiling a list. And it's like, where do you even start with some of the stuff that happened?
Yeah, so I 100% was not ready for this. So, like most of our listeners here, I will say that I work a day job. So obviously, like I was working today and trying to watch the coverage, and then wasn't paying attention to anything else going on in the background of Twitter and all that stuff, because it's hard to be watching the championship and all that stuff while also being on Twitter and also like doing a job to where it doesn't look like I'm not doing my job. So I got home and I was like, we got a podcast tonight. I was like, it's probably going to be really quick, like probably like a 20-30 minute podcast. I was like, we can talk about day one, decks we were surprised that, we're playing so high numbers. Oh, that's kind of cool. Draft format looks good. Insert the other like random BS. And then like I made the mistake of going on to Magic Twitter and like, oh no, they just like released the next 6 years of Magic and like we're having 40 sets next year and all this stuff. Cool. I'm not ready for this. My financial wallet can't handle this.
I think short of Elon Musk levels of money, you aren't going to be able to afford all the stuff that is going to be coming out. And just the next was this like 8 months.
Yeah.
But before we get to it, because I know as soon as I get talking about it, I'm not going to stop. So I need to do the actual, the shilling things. We got to pay the bills here. We got to keep the lights on, So if you're watching this episode right now, this will be the last episode uploaded to my personal channel, Crawdaddy23, and I'm going to be creating a new channel that is just the Casual Spikes official YouTube channel. So if you watch any of these episodes, hopefully from now forward, all the video or all the links in the description are going to be linking to the new channel for the Casual Spikes, and that's where all the future episodes will be uploaded. So if you are watching this and you want to see more episodes, you want to see this continue, go ahead and subscribe to that YouTube channel and help us get a little bit of a following over there, as well as subscribing to our personal YouTube channels. Of course, you can subscribe to my channel here, where I talk mainly about Modern Pioneer. We're going to be doing a lot of Standard now that that's going to be kind of one of the main ways of qualifying for the regional championships and by extension for the Pro Tours. And of course, Randy getting to do his thing over there, and I'll let him explain real quick.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, I do the same thing where I'm just talking about whatever the current RCQ season is. So mainly, I've been focusing on Modern and Standard recently. Modern's kind of like done though. November 3rd is the last weekend or the last day for the Modern RCQ. So pretty much we're done talking about Modern for the time being. Obviously, if anything major pops up, or like I know they're doing like the bigger like GP style tournaments coming back around. So like one of those ends up being Modern. I'll end up talking about like, hey, what should you take to this event? Spoiler alert, it's going to be Boros Energy. This is the best deck in the format. But what should you take? What should you expect? XYZ lifetime thing. But usually I'm talking about whatever the RCQ season is and kind of doing a little bit deeper dive into that. I know I'm going to start trying to break down like a more of a meta analysis of it, essentially going over like what happened what happened the last weekend, what decks are doing well, what's trending. We have foundations coming up, so that's going to be a huge shakeup to Standard. So it's going to be a real interesting season, I think, moving forward. And I'll probably be doing 1,000,002 videos because Magic likes to release 1,000,002 sets.
True. It's definitely a good time to be a content creator. And what an even better time now, if you're watching this, that if you at any point have any questions that you want to ask us, that you want us to answer on the podcast, talk about, have a discussion of whatever, please feel free to leave those questions, comments, concerns, anything like that in the comment section down below. We will try to address them as soon as possible in the comments, and of course bring them up as well. I'm actually look up real quick because there was somebody that asked if we were planning on releasing the podcast on other platforms, and that is in the works. I'm going to at least try to get the podcast on its own YouTube channel, and then from there, potentially look to like Spotify, iTunes, and things like that. So it will come. I am going to make sure that I credit this person with asking that question, because it is something me and Randy talked about, when we started the podcast, and to be honest, I definitely felt pretty sure on that. So that's my bad, but we're going to try and get all that stuff going.
Yes, it's time consuming, and like we both work day jobs as well as run our own channel, so like it is a little bit harder to try to get all this in, as well as keep up with our daily lives as well. It's not exactly just easy. Plus, trying to go to like RCQs and stuff like that, your time gets real constrained real fast when you realize that you work essentially 9 to 10 hours a day, counting your drive time. Plus, then trying to do Magic videos, keep up with what's going on in Magic, and then also like play Magic on top of it. Like we have a full-time job on top of having a full-time job, essentially. Some
would say. Maybe I can put a little screenshot up here of the comment, but it was from a Nicholas Sarter 8606. So shout out to them. Actually leaving a question on the podcast episode. So if you want it kind of featured in an episode, like I said, discussion, please be sure to leave those questions down below.
Yes, but, we love questions.
Yes, we do. We might not be very good at answering them, but we are very good at, looking at them.
Looking at them, reading them, realizing we don't have an actual answer for this, and pretending we do.
giving you the best answer, non-answer that I could possibly come up with.
Look out for us in the next presidential election race.
Hey, I'm only like two technical elections away before I can legally run. So I will be on the platform that every citizen of the United States gets a Black Lotus, and you are entitled to one game in any RCQ event where you have an Omniscience emblem, and you can just play as many spells as you want. You get one. And you can't use it in the finals. So there you go. Like there's my platform. Everyone gets an Omniscience token, one per RCQ, and everyone gets a Black Lotus. So look out for me in 2032. I'm just saying. It's going to be a great race. Very amazing. I look at Black Lotus and I'm like, wow, that's a Black Lotus.
Not canceled.
True. But, anyway, so we talked about there's a lot of announcements. We're going to try to make a lot of these as concise as possible, and we're really going to focus more on Foundations, because that is going to be the just actual factual next set released in 2024, and it's going to have huge implications for the upcoming RCQ season, which is going to be Pioneer, going from November through like March, I believe, like the beginning of March.
Standard.
Yeah, Standard's going to be like November to like March. It's like a long period of time.
It's a long period.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I'd say, but yeah, it's going to affect Standard obviously for the next 5 years. That's how long this set's legal for. I like this idea. I think this is something that players talked about a lot a long time ago. So like back when Craig Wesco was still doing Magic content. So I don't know how far back that goes, but that was definitely dating myself. Where we have like this issue, we've had this issue before where like we really need like specific sideboard cards or like specific cards. Essentially, like you need cards like, oh, this is really good at hating out like a green-white deck, or this is really good against the blue-white control decks, or this is really good against the Boros decks. And like we need like these like quick, efficient answers that are really good sideboard cards only, or like in case like how Modern has Boros Energy overrunning it right now. Like we have, Boros was the best second Standard, where we have like, oh, we can main deck, insert card that is 1 mana, destroys white or red permanent. Yeah, like, oh man, I wish they would have printed this. So like now we can kind of solve that issue, as well as like give a bunch of like supporting cards to archetypes that necessarily aren't like viable right now, but like maybe in 2 years Elves gets a resurgence, and like, oh cool, I'm glad Foundation's printed like Land of War elves and this elf and this elf and this elf. Now we have a deck we can build instead of like, man, it'd be really cool if they would have printed like 8 more elf cards, so we could actually have a deck instead of like, hey man, I have like this mono green elf deck that plays the 4 elves that are playable. Yay!
Says you, loser. I would love to play it. I would love for elves to actually be halfway decent. But before we talk about the specifics of the foundation set, real quickly, we'll kind of run over some admin things. I think things are going to be kind of important dates to remember and important things to keep in mind as we kind of go through and finish 2024 and get into 2025. We have the list of the next, this is 5 sets that are going to be released in standard, to my knowledge. So we have Innistrad Remastered, which is going to essentially, I think we already had like Ravnica Remastered, and like that was an absolute hit. Of course, Edgar Markov is like the card that they featured, and it's going to be serialized too. It's $1 million for no fucking reason other than the fact that Commander players are, beautiful, degenerate, loving people that, have like easily the worst, best format ever. But Innistrad Remastered coming January 24th. Day before my birthday, so if anybody wants to be a homie, I'd appreciate it. I'm just kidding, please don't. Aether Drift, which is going to be based in I don't know why I wanted to say Kaldheim and Kaladesh. They both start with a K. It doesn't matter.
So one's a barren ice wasteland, one's technologically advanced, whatever, same thing.
I'm sure it snows on Kaladesh as well. I wonder if it's like the Florida of plains, where it's like it's just always hot.
They're in the Industrial Revolution 24/7. There's no way they even have an ozone. I'm just saying that planet is killing people.
So you're saying they have weather machines?
How else are you going to make the hurricanes, man? How else are you going to make the hurricanes?
But Aether Drift will be released February 14th. There are a few spoiler cards that were released as well. Again, we're not going to be going over specific spoilers for those sets. We'll kind of tackle those as we get closer to them. But there's a few cards that look pretty sweet from Aether Drift.
The big thing I'll say about Aether Drift is it's going to focus a lot on artifacts and on vehicles, because obviously it's a kind of like a racing simulation is what they're doing, or like it's one giant race essentially. So we don't know what the grand prize is or whatever. I know big thing they said was Chandra has her own race team, so I imagine she'll be like the premier planeswalker of that set. And Mark Rosewater loves his vehicles, so I'm sure there'll be 1,000,002 vehicles that have a whole bunch of weird text and weird abilities on them. So kind of looking forward to see what they do with vehicles. I think they miss the mark almost every time on vehicles, besides like Smuggler's Copter. So hopefully we can get some new playable ones.
Also, this would be the great time to have Secret Lair NASCAR come out. I'm just saying, could you imagine? Never mind. There's a lot of messed up ones that you could do with Dale Earnhardt Sr., but we won't go there.
I thought of that immediately. So I know we're on the same mindset of just messed up.
I'm gonna have Dale Earnhardt crew this. I'm going to attack. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna crash in. I'm gonna attack your wall. Oh, that's so messed up. That is so messed up. I don't condone any of that, but that is kind of funny that canonically that could potentially happen. Do it, you cowards.
Moving on, we have was it Dragonstorm next?
Yep, Tarkir Dragonstorm.
Yeah, going on April 4th. So that's going to be interesting. They're going to be bringing back the clans. So I imagine we're going to go back to hopefully the 3-color clans again. See some interesting things. Hopefully get some really cool dual lands and things like that. I'm kind of curious if maybe they'll bring back the triomes type thing again with that, or if they've learned their lesson and know that we can't do domain things because it's unfun. But I'm really curious to see what they do with that. They've spoiled some cards, but not spoiled, if that makes sense. They've done a bunch of here's what this card's going to look like. You have no idea what the mana cost is, what the abilities are, or anything like that, but it looks cool. So I look forward to seeing all those cards that look really cool and not be playable, and the cards they don't spoil be the most playable ones.
Yeah, they did spoil the template and the art for a new Ugin Planeswalker. I don't think there's a cost or anything. It's literally just the bare bones of a Magic card.
It's just the template.
So I mean, people love their Ugin Planeswalkers. Not the very last time we had an Ugin Planeswalker in Standard, but the time before that, back in like the mid 2010s, a Dakota that was trying to figure out what college that he wanted to flunk out of. That card, Ugin was like awesome in Standard. So we're getting another one. Third time's a charm.
Yeah, mess that up at all.
Important because this will give you some extra special context for later. The next Magic the Gathering set after that is the Final Fantasy Universes Beyond that will be released on June 13th. That has also had some art spoiled for it. I don't know if there's I don't even know if they spoiled like templates of cards, but we've gotten some pretty sweet art.
Yeah, some sweet looking art. Do you want to talk about the other big thing with that set?
Oh, we can throw it in here. So okay. The fun part about all this now, that's starting in 2025 with the Final Fantasy set, all Universes Beyond sets will be printed with Standard in mind, which also means that they will be Pioneer legal as well. This doesn't mean that sets like Lord of the Rings, thank God, and Assassin's Creed are going to retroactively now be Standard and Pioneer legal. All the sets that were printed before or in 2024 and before will be legal in whatever sets they were printed for, and then 2025 forward, as it stands, they will all be Standard legal, meaning that they will also be Pioneer legal, Modern legal, etc.
Yes. So they have said that this is a plan they had coming into action. Basically, they wanted to make it less complicated for new players, which I do appreciate as a whole, because like I started off in Magic when Magic was very simple. We had block sets. So this is fucking dating myself horrendously because that doesn't exist anymore. Where you have like you go to a plane, you would have 3 sets. You have a first set, a middle set, and end set. It would tell a whole complete story. Theoretically, if you read the lore, no one does, so it doesn't matter. I'm sure I just pissed off the 5 people who care about lore. So
you pissed me off. I care about lore.
Don't lie to yourself. They had 3 sets, and then you would go to a next one, and then about every like two complete sets, you would have a core set, which would then be printed and have a bunch of like good commons, uncommons, and rares that would help, like Foundations is doing, that we keep telling ourselves that we're not going to make core sets anymore. And then Magic realizes that they desperately need core sets for Standard to work. And so we keep making core sets that are not core sets.
Yeah, they find creative ways to then, like, this isn't a core set. And then they just eventually folded, went back to core sets, and then said, we don't
2015 was the last core set. And then we had Origins, not a core set, it's a core set. And then what was the other, what did we have after that? We had another fucking core set that wasn't a core set.
I don't remember another non-core set, but I do remember then we, like, Core Set 20 came out
they did
2019.
They don't want to have core sets because they don't sell well, and they don't need to sell well. The whole purpose of them is just literally just market them as supplemental product or whatever. I don't care what you have to do, but like core sets work. That's why we're making a Foundation set. Like, Wizards, you know this.
We don't want it to be a supplemental set because then it'll be a $15 booster pack. To open up cards like Oblivion Ring and Pacifism, and then like, oh sweet, like I got a Eater of Days as my rare. Like I'm glad I spent $15 on this pack.
Another interesting thing about the Universes Beyond as well is they want to do the same number. Will you stop that?
Get out of here, Greg.
Jesus. They will do the same number of sets, standard legal sets, or like they're all standard legal, but standard sets as Universe Beyond sets. So that means if we have 3 standard sets, we're also having 3 Universe Beyond sets, or vice versa if we're doing 1 and 1, however many we do. So expect a lot more product. Expect your wallet to see fatigue. By the way, groceries are still $1 million, so good luck trying to choose between cardboard and eating. Remember, you cannot eat cardboard. Remember that.
Cardboard gives you no nutritional value. You absolutely can go eat cardboard. You just get absolutely zero nutrition out of it.
Fair enough.
The Casual Spikes do not condone eating of any sort of cardboard material or any material found in a Magic the Gathering booster or booster box or case.
Yes. But I think that's all the big news for the Universes Beyond.
For Universes Beyond. Yes. There's one last set. And it is arguably probably going to be the most memed on set name for 2025, and that is Edge of Eternities. That's going to be releasing August 1st.
Yes. So I look forward to the Edge jokes that will come.
Oh, yeah. There is some of the art that they posted of it. It looks like Tezzeret is going to be in space, which I guess sort of kind of makes sense. Sure. And I think the Wandering Emperor slash whatever. I think the Wandering Emperor is going to be in space as well.
Well, I mean, Tezzeret likes machines, and you need machines to get into space, and the Wandering Emperor wanders, so, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Just don't think about it too hard and play the cards.
Tezzeret and then the Wandering Astronaut dual decks confirmed.
Yes.
With what's the dog from the unset?
Oh yeah, I know the red white dog. I can't think of his name. He's super fun.
It's like No, it's not Asteroid. Hey, whatever, don't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Reprinted in that set. It's now standard legal.
Oh, another set that we don't have listed on here, but is going to be on here is the Spider-Man set. Comes out in 2025 as well. So I look forward to playing Spider-Man and doing fun things with those cards.
You have I'm gonna have a commander deck, and it's Sephiroth, and my partner is Spider-Man. and then with one of the pretty cool. Well, okay, so that's basically standard. 2026. It's been announced, I believe, that we will be going back to Lorwyn in 2026. I don't think that there's any art or anything like that, but it is just word from the horse's mouth. Lorwyn 2026 confirmed.
Notably, Lorwyn got pushed back to 2026 because of a new Universes Beyond set having to be printed in 2025 for reasons.
Boo.
Yeah, so a little sad about that. Another huge thing for Standard, just moving forward with the 2027 year, or starting with 2027, Standard rotation will now happen at the beginning of the year. So instead of used to be the fall set would come out, and that would then change rotation, and these 3 sets would drop off, 6 sets, however many sets would drop off. It's now just January 1st is now here in 2027. These 20 sets are now dropped off because we're going to have a lot more product, and now these 40 sets are now only legal in Standard.
That is true, and that is going to be very huge to actually be able to keep up with rotation, where we just essentially have these one-off sets that just kind of take place somewhere, or maybe a second set that's loosely based on it, and then we move on.
Yeah, I'm really happy they're doing that. I think that's a good change. I get why it's so far out. They've already planned, because I know they make sets so far in advance. I don't know what Wizards' actual timeline is. I don't pretend to know, and I don't care to know. I'm not part of that. So I know they already were planned probably all the way up to probably 2026. So I'm sure that that's why it had to be so far out. But I really am looking forward to this change moving forward in Magic, because even when Magic was less confusing, it was sometimes confusing what fell off and what didn't. Because sometimes you get that weird cutoff period where okay, we went to Khans of Tarkir, and the first 2 sets are falling off when this set comes out, but the third set's still legal. And it's alright, that's kind of weird. So I'm hoping this is makes it a more clean cut type deal. And it's okay, January 1st came in, Spider-Man's no longer in, Marvels are.
Well, we've had times too where they've changed now multiple times throughout my time playing competitive Magic, where rotation has changed. So back when we had Battle for Zendikar and stuff, I remember that not Jace, the Gideon Planeswalker was legal in Standard for 2 years or something like that. It was almost 2 years or over 2 years, and then Liliana, The Last Hope, and all these other cards were legal for just over a year. It just insane how they change it. And of course they changed it here recently too, where they extended it from 2 years to 3 years. And so hopefully this is the we're gonna set it and forget it.
Yeah,
first
hopefully.
Of the year, rotate. You can play all these cards till December 31st, but as soon as January 1st rolls around, the ball drops, and you kiss your waifu body pillow, all these cards rotate, and you got to figure out a new deck, loser.
Exactly. But I think. Oh, we have one more thing.
I think that just does it for actual factual, all the Standard news that we got just from Friday. That's it. That's all we got.
Yeah. A new just a little blip. When the Pioneer Pioneer Masters? Is that what they're calling it on Arena?
Yeah, Pioneer. One of their Pioneer reprint or introduction sets or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is they're calling it on Pioneer, the Pioneer set coming to Arena, I think it's Pioneer Masters. On December 10th, that will fully make Explorer into complete factual Pioneer. So that's good news for the Arena players. They can finally play the real format now and not have to go to Magic Online, which is the better system. So happy news for them. They get to actually play the full Pioneer set. I think it's kind of funny though because all the cards they're missing are decks that are not being played right now anyway, which is kind of funny. Which is like Lotus Field's not played. It's also not played in actual Pioneer either. So it's just like, hey, Lotus Field's finally playable. It's also not playable. Yay!
Time to dust off the Lotus Fields I got sitting in a box somewhere,
Yeah,
so that I can rage quit and like throw the deck at a wall 3 matches in.
but I think that is all the set news we got on Friday in a matter of like 5 to 6 hours time frame. Where there's like, hey, by the way, here's all this news.
Hey, you're sitting at home watching the World Championship? Sorry, loser. Like, we're going to blow up all your notifications with all the cool things that we have coming up for the rest of 2024, for 2025, and then even a look into 2026 and 2027, which, seems like it's very far away, but then, we're going to sit down and record the episode next week, and then all of a sudden we're talking about, like, Foundations 4 coming out.
Yeah, exactly. it's gonna be crazy. But I think that's all we have to say about that. If we want to get into actual factual Foundations, which comes out here in November,
Oh, yeah.
I believe the release weekend is November 15th because it's the same time as SCG Con Columbus.
Yeah, sure. I believe that.
Yeah,
I'll give it to you.
See, I'm not 100% certain on that one, but I know most SCG cons usually happen around release dates and such. So if it's not that weekend, it's the weekend before, so which means it's even closer. So I think it's that weekend. So I'm hoping for a lot of good reprints that I already own the cards to, where I can just go to my local card shop and buy them, and so I can play in that tournament without having to pay $1 million to Star City to buy overpriced pre-release cards, basically.
Yep. And you know what's not getting reprinted, or very much is not getting reprinted?
Basic Island.
Well, no, it confirmed like 13 different arts for Basic Island.
Yeah.
It was highly anticipated that we could potentially see Snapcaster Major Dark Confidant reprinting, and we're not going to. Very likely, we're not going to.
More likely, we're not going to see that. But I still have hope for those 2 cards to be reprinted because Black is not strong enough. We need Black to be better in Pioneer.
We also need Blue to be better.
Yes. But we are getting Day of Judgment, so I'm really excited about that.
That is true. We had like a very small pool of cards that were kind of spoiled before when like Foundations was officially announced.
Yes.
I guess I'll kind of talk about the reprinted Planeswalkers and by extension the new ones, just because those were technically spoiled on the Tuesday of this week when we're recording this. We had a Johnny Caller of the Pride, Liliana Dreadhorde General, Vivian Reed announces reprints before the actual event started, and then with a bunch of the new cards that they spoiled, we are getting a new Kaito and a new Chandra Planeswalker in this set as well to kind of round out each Planeswalker, or each color getting its own Planeswalker.
How hard do you think it was for them not to reprint a Jace?
Probably not hard because I think they're Jace and Vraska are still honeymooning.
Yeah.
Honeymewing.
But
Skibbity Riz, Ohio.
Jesus Christ. But there's some other interesting cards that are getting printed in here. I think one of the weirdest things to me that's getting reprinted is Progenitus is getting reprinted. And so I 100% believe that this is what's going to happen with Progenitus. You're either going to see Progenitus, and then there's going to be some card to break Progenitus. It's like, can you believe they gave us Progenitus? This is crazy. It's #1 deck in the format. Or it's like, fuck, I opened up my 4th Progenitus. God, why do I keep opening this card? It's worth a nickel. Why do I keep opening this?
I don't know if there's any instant speed. No, because even like the one card that it would be like really good with makes it like a 1/1. So like I don't think there's any instant speed ways to like bring back Progenitus, and like you definitely don't want to be paying the cost for Progenitus.
There is a deck in standard right now that can play it. It's the green smugglers deck or whatever. It's a crow and horse
Oh,
card.
okay, yeah. I think I
Like
know what you're talking about.
what they're doing now is already better than putting a Progenitus into play. So like it's not.
It's Kona. I forgot Kona can put a creature into play.
Yeah, I don't think that like Progenitus is going to be necessarily good. I think that we're going to see someone will do something with it and it's going to be funny, but I don't think it's going to be as it stands now. Progenitus does nothing. We have 5 years of standard for that to not that to change, but as it sits right now, Progenitus is like
I'm slamming. I'm playing 4 Kona, 4 Progenitus in my deck, and I'll figure it out later. I have 52 other cards to make make these two playable. Like, could you like a 10/10 protection from everything except for board wipes? Don't get into like a 10-minute judge call about it. Like, it dies to board wipes. You can't target it. Whatever. Like,
yeah.
your opponent can sacrifice whatever. Like, there's plenty of ways to get rid of Progenitus, without having to target it.
I do remember I was playing when Progenitus got printed, and I loved it when someone played that card, and you had like new players who were playing against it, and they're like, oh well, I'll do this. And it's like, is that something? Yes, we'll have protection for that because that's something. Protect from everything.
Let me ask, when that set came out, did they still have cranks on the TV so that you could watch, so you could watch Richard Nixon talk? I'm just curious.
No, we got rid of the cranks the year before.
Oh, okay, so like you had it connected to a windmill that had to spin outside.
Yes.
Yeah, like Progenitus is like one of the few cards in Magic where you're like, I'm gonna do like Trinisphere, where I like it was like an old Magic TV where someone was like, yeah, you play Trinisphere, and then people are like basically forget how to play Magic. And they're like, okay, like I'll play this Mox Sapphire. No, that costs 3. Okay, like I'll pay 3 mana for like my Mox Sapphire or whatever. And then like the next turn they're like, oh, like I'm gonna play this like XX spell. And I was like, well, did you spend 3 mana on it? No, well it costs 3. And it's like, well, how do I pay it? Like, I'll figure it out. Like, so it's just like a lot of like, okay, well then I'm gonna do this. Like, no, it still costs 3. Like, and then Progenitus is like oh, well, okay, well, it's a 10/10, like, it's annoying, but I'll block it. No, you can't block this. It has protection from everything. Like, all right, well, I'll just, like, hit it with a go for the throw. Protection from everything. Like, well, fine. And then you nudge the card just closer. Like, you hold on to that.
Look, I want you to just look, I'm just going to slide it right here. Just going to slide it right here, okay? Okay. And now, when you think you're going to do something, just read everything. Is this a thing? Oh, it is. Protection.
I do have the 4 cool-looking Progenitus here, but I conveniently have a 5th copy, and it's the one from Alara that has all the rules text on it for what protection from everything means. If you want to go do something, I want you to refer to this piece of cardboard, and if it is any of the things on the list, you cannot do it to Progenitus.
It is wild that people just like forget how Magic works when this card comes into play, just like Transfer, where it's just like, oh no. It's like the Thalia attacks too. People just don't understand how Thalia works sometimes. There's like, I'm gonna play this, like, what costs 1 more? Yeah, but like it's free. I'm like, it costs 1 more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Path Negation doesn't cost. Yes, it costs 1 generic mana.
Yes.
Thalia attacks.
Yeah, there's like plenty of there's so many of like those like older cards where they just hit the table, you acknowledge that like, oh yeah, they do a thing, and then you go to like do the thing, and then you immediately just get blown out by it. It's like, oh fuck. Yeah. But Progenitus is just kind of a neat, I think it's like an iconic card. We can call it an iconic card, right?
Yeah, it's iconic because it also used to be like one of the best like reanimation targets for a minute too. Like,
and in natural, I think maybe more natural order.
Yeah, natural order. I'm sorry, it was a more natural order target. Like, that was Elves' like go-to kill spell for the longest time. And even when Crater Hoof Behemoth became like the go-to spell, Progenitus was still put into the sideboard for like just the other games where like there was a lot of games where you just like go turn 1, drop an elf, turn 2, like drop another elf, drop a third elf, Gaia's Cradle, go natural order for Progenitus, and it's like, cool, my opponent can't win the game now. Like I have locked them out of the game because like they board in like board wipes for small creatures and stuff. That's cool. Here's a 10/10 that you can't touch. Oh, and we're playing Legacy, so you're probably not playing board wipes.
That's cool that you have a plague engine or not plague engineered. I guess it's engineered plague is like the
Yeah,
official
engineered plague.
card. Like I'm
Yep.
glad that you named that on elves. I can't play any other elves, but I already have this 10/10 in play, and it is not an elf. You're dead in 2 turns.
Yeah. Would you like to get seed down or nah?
All right, I'm done. I'm done stroking the Progenitus. Like it's a cool card. It's iconic. It's sweet.
Yeah.
And most certainly players are gonna figure out how to cheat this thing into play because nobody is spending 10 mana on this thing.
No.
More than likely.
No one who wants to play Magic correctly is doing it. We also got the Scry lands, the Temple lands. Those are now in standard. Well, those will be in standard for 5 years. So those are going to be like the go-to lands essentially for the next 5 years, or the lands that everyone will own now a place set of copies of. The good news is those lands are already worth a nickel, so now they're worth -5 cents.
That's true.
You open it when you open it from the pack that you bought from your LGS. You actually owe them more money now
Yep. They're gonna.
because you opened it.
Oh, I thought they were gonna like give you a pack. Like it was like, here you go. Like we feel bad for you that you opened up this card. Like here's another one.
No, that's when you open up Progenitus.
Got him.
Because no one broke it.
Well, and you know what? Like I like the Scrylands a lot as like as a land cycle. You know, I think we can all look at the Surveil lands. I think it was pretty stupid that there was a lot of people that were just like, you know, what it comes into play tapped and all you do is survey whatever. And it turns out that land has, you know, that cycle of lands has been like the biggest deal as far as like lands in like the last like, you know, maybe before triomes, like, or after triomes, whatever, like, you know, triomes, oh whatever, like it's neat, but is it really that good? And then everybody just jammed like 1 or 2 triomes in their deck because it's like I can fetch this and I now have like a 3-color mana base I can support on turn 1 because I don't need a turn 1 play, you know.
Yeah, the fact that they're like fetchable is what made them broken, right? Like the Surveil what made the Surveil lands broken is what people didn't understand, I think, in the beginning, or like what I won't say bad players, but like what the average player didn't really understand is like you don't understand. Anytime it's the end of the turn, you're not casting spells. You're now fixing your draw step. Like that's huge. Like huge. You're just like, oh okay, I'm gonna I'll play my fetch land. I'm gonna hold up mana. Oh, they didn't do anything important. And in turn, I'm gonna fetch, and now I'm gonna surveil. Oh man, it's my 5th land. No, don't need that. Oh cool, relevant spell, awesome. Or like, oh. Top card. Oh, I really need a 3rd land. Bend that spell. Oh, there's my 3rd land. Like it's so big because it's just you get to hold up mana or not and not have to worry about it with fetch lands. Like obviously it's different in standard where like they are more of a liability in standard, right? Like you're trying to like if you're trying to curve out, you're trying to like play something on 1, 2, 3. You don't want surveil lands in your deck. That's terrible. Like you need to curve out. You need to hit your land drops. Like you need to play your spells. But like any slower deck or any grinder deck, they're amazing. Any decks that are playing fetch lands are amazing. Like really the only format they haven't like truly taken off is Pioneer. Because Pioneer is in that weird format where you need to be very proactive and you don't have fetch lands.
Yeah, is like a sidebar to this too, like how quickly it went from we don't know if these are going to see play to all right, sure, you could have 1 copy in your deck to you need to play like 5. Like that's it jumped from probably not playable to okay, I see utility in 1 to I can't put enough in my deck. Like
so I was playing Jeskai Control in Modern when MH3 came out, and I had 3, and I was like, can I play a 4th? Can I afford a 4th tap land?
yeah.
Can I do a 5th? And then even like just real quick, even like Bordeaux's Energy went from like, all right, we're gonna play 1. We'll play 1, just 1. All right, 2. We gotta play 2 to like. Should it be 3? Is 3 actually the correct number? Is it? Are you sure? It's just like, and this is a deck that wants to play a 1-drop into a 2-drop into like double spelling on 3. Like it's just like, no man, I gotta play 3 tap lands.
Yep. And now they're like, I really hope that they reprint the Surveillance, but they give them different names so we can play 4 more Surveillance in our deck. And that's probably what like a lot of Magic players are just like, I'm willing to play the 5th through 8th copy. But like the Scrylands, they're, you know, I guess real quick, because I went on a little bit more of a tangent with the Surveillance than I thought. The Scrylands, I think, are perfect for standard. Just being a land comes into play, tap, fixes your mana. Scrying is obviously worse than surveilling, obviously, with some of the other synergies that come with putting a card in your graveyard versus the bottom of your library. But I think it's just a very good like base rate. Like this is like a good way to gauge how good a land cycle will be, is how good like Scrylands and stuff are. And I'm kind of glad that they're getting another shake into standard, because then this is like a cheap way that like players can get a land that is going to give them just a little bit of value and going to be very good mana fixing for on a budget.
Yes. Definitely happy with that as a whole. What else do we want to talk about then here with this? I know you had some cards.
So we are getting I'm going to call them sideboard staples. They're not exclusively held to the sideboard, and even like Unsummon, I wouldn't necessarily consider like a sideboard staple. But these are cards that have been like pretty synonymous and iconic in a way with standard, where like it just seems like these cards are always legal. And I think like Negate has been like the only card that has been legal throughout the entirety of standard being a thing. So like staples like Negate, Duress, Disenchant, Soul Guide Lantern, Sorcerer's Spyglass are getting reprinted, and again they're going to be legal for 5 years, meaning that we're going to continue to have cards like Negate, Duress that have just shown up increasingly in higher numbers in more decks, kind of as standard has kind of moved on.
Yes, I will also add to that. We have like Flash Freeze and Deathmark that is getting reprinted as well. These are kind of the cards I was like referring to when I talked about how like Magic's like, oh, we can't do core sets. It's like every time like they acknowledge that like core sets are a terrible idea, like 2 years later, like we should probably do core sets. They were actually smart. I like Flash Freeze is like a big one where it's a it's a counter spell for 2 mana that targets a red or green spell. So like it helps like the control decks have game now against the super aggressive or like the super big mana decks type thing like that. Or like with Deathmark, it's a destroy target green or white creature for 1 black mana, sorcery speed. It's not broken, it's not degenerate, but like if there's a super good like white weenie deck running around, this gives the black decks aggression to it or slow them down. Same things like there's a super big green deck, this is going over top. It gives them an answer to these creatures. It's just something good to have access to. Now, is Flash Freeze going to see play inside in the blue X decks? The whole 5 years is in play? Probably not. Maybe it'll only see play for like a year. Maybe it won't see play ever. But it's nice to have access to this card. It is a good card to have. And this is what Foundations is trying to do, and what like the core sets did before this is like it gave us access to this wide variety of cards that like maybe they're good, maybe they're not, maybe it's Maybelline, we don't know.
Thing to note too, I think we still have Change the Equation still legal, which I mean is just a better version of like Flash Freeze. But
Yes.
in like the year or two when that falls off, we still have Flash Freeze for another year. That's just a hard answer to the green and red cards, and can kind of fill the niche that Change the Equation was playing in the format. Obviously without that upside of like if you're not playing against green or red, then you can counter a cheap spell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just interesting thing to think about, like the Color Hoser cards just making a return in some form or fashion to standard.
Yep. Some of the other notable reprints too is we got Lyra Dawnbringer. I'm really excited for this card to come back, especially with the aggro decks running around. It gives blue-white control, the white decks, Caretaker's Talent type decks. It gives them game against those. It gives you a big creature that's good with lifelink, things like that. So that's always good to have. Think Twice is coming back. That's not like necessarily a good card. It's just kind of like that iconic draw go card. So I'm happy to see that's going to be in in standard for 5 years. Like right now we have the Deuce, which I think is just better because it gives you an artifact. There's like some synergies with that, things like that. So I think that's probably better as a whole right now. But I do think that like Think Twice will see play moving forward once that card rotates out. Kind of a cool callback. They gave us Sarah Angel, Sylvan Dragon, Giant Growth, all those like alpha reprints essentially. Probably none of those will see play. Giant Growth might, with how like the red aggro rule deck is right now. Maybe that will see play. Probably not. It's one of those like, will it, won't it? Probably not Then we have Pyromancer Goggles, which is like kind of an iconic card for one one season, one tournament.
Yep.
But also cool to see Maelstrom Pulse is coming back, which I think is like just another iconic card. Elvish Archdruid coming back, which will be good for like I said, like they're gonna print Land of Worlds, we're printing Elvish Archdruid. Maybe when we go 2-3 sets in, we're gonna get a bunch of elves, and this will help like make an elves deck. Maybe Omniscience is coming back. I think maybe we find a way to break it. Maybe it just does nothing for 5 years, and we're like, why did we print this? What was the thought process behind that?
Oh, Greg, you're in trouble, bud.
I will take you out, little one.
I wonder how often Maelstrom Pulse is going to get cast and somebody blows up their opponent's thing and then in turn blows up their own thing as well.
I think a lot of people will not realize that it's not a one-sided thing where like, oh, I'm playing against the mirror match and they have Shieldred. It's like, kill your Shieldred, mine's gonna
Yep.
I also look forward to the play where someone doesn't realize that you can do it, where they're like, I'm gonna blow up your you have 3 of this, like 3 Land of Worlds, like, alright, response, I'm gonna kill the Land of Worlds you're targeting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sad face.
Yeah. There's definitely some room for some potential feel bad with Maelstrom Pulse, but like it's also kind of entertaining to watch it happen.
Maelstrom Pulse feel badge is the same as Termagoyf feel badge, where you don't understand how Termagoyf works. Everyone has a Termagoyf. Well, not everyone now, but like you go back 4 years, like everyone had a Termagoyf feel bad story where it's like, yeah, man, I would have killed Termagoyf if I bolted it. Then I realized that there was no instance in the graveyard.
Yep. And I gave him the 4th type, so it lived.
Yeah. Like,
Or I guess the 3rd type. It doesn't even need to be the 4th one. The 3rd type
third type.
Oh my god. How did I miss that my opponent only went fetch land Thoughtseize on like turn 1 and Tarmogoyf turn 2, and I just tried to bolt it, and I look like an idiot now.
Yeah, it's awesome. But no, I'm happy with some of those reprints. Like I think Lyra, Think Twice are really good ones. I think the Elvish Archdruid along with Land of Worlds is really big, but we knew about Land of Worlds. That wasn't like there's nothing to talk about there. That was spoiled on Tuesday with like the Planeswalkers and stuff. Or it might even been spoiled
it was
earlier.
Like way before. It was like one of the first few cards spoiled because it was with the like 2 mana like Anthem, and then I think Omniscience was also like in that same batch of cards.
The Adjustment was in that batch of cards too, because we were like people were really excited about a 4-mana Wrath coming back, like a good 4-mana Wrath essentially coming back. So that's kind of cool.
There is a special combo that is coming back to Standard after its very long hiatus, and people tried making it work in Pioneer at the inception of the format, and it turns out it wasn't good enough.
No, it was not good enough. I also don't think it's going to be good enough in Standard.
Probably not, but it's kind of fun. There's the Demonic Pact Harmless Offering combo, both pieces getting printed in the format. Harmless Offering, you basically get to take target one of your permanents and give it to an opponent. And Demonic Pact, has like you're forced to choose different modes. So like it deals 4 damage to any target, you gain 4 life. I believe it's like draw 2 cards, and then it does something else too.
Your opponent discards 2 cards.
Yep. And then the last one is you lose the game. And it's not your opponent loses the game, you lose the game. So then what people would do is they would deplete all the options until they got to just that one. They'd give it to their opponent. So on their opponent's turn, Randy gets all blurry, and then they have to choose the option to lose the game.
I haven't moved once. My camera's just like, I don't know what's going on.
Where'd he go?
Who's but there? Notably, you have to choose one. Like you can't repeatedly choose, because obviously, if you could, that card would be broken. It'd just be dealing 4 damage every turn, killing your opponent. But it is a really cool design card. It's a very interesting card. Usually, like the most common things on that one were like you'd either draw 2 immediately to get like the immediate value, or you're killing something, gaining 4 life, and then drawing 2 the next turn. And it's one of these like weird cards where like you could definitely kill yourself with it. And like when it was in Standard, like when that combo was in Standard before, we've watched people like just kill themselves with it, where like they didn't find something to get rid of it. And notably, you play more things than just like Harmless Offering to get rid of it. You'll play like sacrifice effects or things like that you get benefits from. Which like right now we have Torch the Tower, so like that already fits into those color pair that color pair of Rakdos. So we could.
I've got an idea.
Oh God.
There's like the enchantment from the like the vault set or whatever inside of Outlaws of Thunder Junction, where it's like you make a bunch of 2/1s, you like draw 3 cards and you gain 6 life, and then like you like lose 2 life, discard a card, and sacrifice a creature on your upkeep or whatever, and then when it leaves you lose all the stuff. So like you could play that card and then donate that to your opponent, and like they have to sack a creature, lose 2 life, discard a card every turn, and you get to keep all the benefits.
Mm,
There's a few
more.
good like black enchantments that you can donate.
Yeah, I'm sure someone much smarter than me will will build this deck, and then I'll laugh as like I lose to it 4 times in a row,
Let
and
me
go, haha.
let me cook,
Yeah.
chat. Let me cook.
But it does seem like Foundations, as it sits now, is shaping up to be a very interesting set. I'm really curious to see what all we're gonna get as a whole. So far, I like what I see. Obviously, the whole set's not been spoiled yet, so we'll see, what all we're gonna get. But I think it's already going to be good. I kind of hope that they price this set lower than a normal Magic set. Mainly because like it's going to get opened a lot. A lot of these cards are not going to hold value because of that, and like it's not meant to hold value, right? This set's supposed to be in standard for 5 years. Like you're not going to be opening these cards and going, oh man, I opened a $50 rare. Like you're not opening Shieldreds. Unless they reprint Shieldred, which I can't imagine they will. But like you're not opening, Shieldred type cards. You're not opening these cards and you're gonna be like, wow, this card's amazing. You're gonna be opening a card like, cool, I now have these cards type deal. Or like there's some new cards obviously getting printed in this, like it's not all just reprints, but I don't think any of these cards are gonna be like, we're not gonna see $100 card come out of this set. Maybe in like the first week, like not excluding like the super special editions they're doing and stuff like that, because I know they're bringing back some of the special card designs and stuff they did. And like there's always like there's like you can open this card. It's like 1 out of every 200 collector boosters is one of these cards. Like okay, cool, yeah, that's gonna be like a 50, or that's gonna be like a $200 card. But like the base value of any of these cards are not going to be like a Shieldred level. You're not going to see Jace Finch Prodigy pricing in standard. You're going to see maybe $10 cards, probably a lot of $5 cards. I'm going to guess and under, where like the packs aren't like necessarily like super valuable. So I'm kind of hoping Wizards understands that and like kind of prices these a little bit cheaper. Do I think that's going to happen? Not at all. But it is kind of like this whole set is more just to grow your standard set, have the staples essentially, or like the building blocks for a lot of different decks.
Yeah, and I would imagine too, I feel like it'd be a big fumble if they are like, hey, this set's going to be legal for 5 years. The cards printed in here are going to be legal for 5 years, and then they stop printing it like 3 to 6 months into like the product being released. I've hope that it's kind of like as an on-demand thing where it's like, okay, if stores are still needing this, stores are still willing to buy it, customers are willing to buy it, then we will keep printing it and we will keep distributing it, and then it'll kind of take the value of a lot of the cards. But as far as I've kind of seen, maybe outside of a handful of cards, there's not really anything that I'd expect to be $20-$30 that would then be a $5 card once the set comes out, if they go by that policy that I kind of outlined there.
Yeah, like as it stands right now, none of the reprints is like super expensive. I don't know what Progenitus this was before this like got announced, so I don't know if that was like a $15-$20 card because of like commander type casual players. So I don't think that card was super expensive to begin with. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before in pricing. I don't keep up with random Magic cards. I keep track of kind of like staple-ish cards and like knowing those prices.
It doesn't even look like it was like that expensive, because currently the median price is $630 with the market price of $672 from the OG set, and like the From the Vault Legends one is not even cracking $10. So
yeah, so I mean that card's gonna lose a lot of value in the sense of it's probably gonna come like a $2 or $3 card. I'm gonna guess. Maybe the OG will keep some pricing, obviously, but like, nothing out of this set has seemed like it's going to be super expensive, and I'm kind of hoping for that, where like we don't need like good cards are not also expensive cards by definition, like, so I'm curious to see what all gets printed in this set. I have high hopes that they built this correctly for something that's going to be in standard for 5 years.
Yeah, and it looks like there's going to be tons and tons of cards in this set too. I mean, I would think to be expected for a set that's supposed to have this kind of longevity. So hopefully that there's a lot of just exciting cards. Again, I don't think they necessarily be anything that are super powerful. We're certainly not seeing things that are I think that are pretty pushed. We're seeing cards that these could be some pretty good role players. Like if for whatever reason you can't get your hands on the absolute best version, you have a card that is technically worse, but I don't think is going to come up in situations, but you're not going to maybe notice it if you're more of a casual player.
Yeah, I think we're looking at like I said, I think a lot of what we're seeing is building blocks, which is what the whole set was designed to do. Is be building blocks, right? Like we're not trying to make the best deck in the format be 95% made out of foundations. That's not the goal here. Mm-hmm. It's not a name brand set type deal. These are a bunch of cards that are going to go well in this archetype or this archetype or this archetype. Like Jade Judgment is going to be a staple in the blue white control decks for sure for the next 5 years. And it's going to be a staple in maybe the mono white decks that we have running around here with Caretaker's Talent right now. It's going to be a staple for those decks. And then when Caretaker Talent rotates out, it's going to be a staple in the blue white control decks for sure. And maybe there's another mono white deck that pops up and it's played in, same with Lighter Resolve or things like that. Or we're going to see insert other cards that are just these are staples in this type of what we have coming together, and then those cards rotate out. We sell these staples. Maybe the next set will bring something in with them. Maybe they'll just go dormant for next year and a half. And set came back out. We can do it now. So, and that's what you want from this set. It's essentially a core set that's here for 5 years to help be building blocks of new decks.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what all comes out from it. And of course, this was just Friday. We're going to have Saturday and Sunday, for future things to kind of be spoiled and or released. I didn't look exactly what events are coming up for the next few days, but I'm sure that, between their own separate videos, shorts, and things like that, you'll be able to find out plenty of the information on both of our channels. But I think that's all we really had on the docket for tonight. Is there anything that you want to bring up, Randy?
I don't think so. I guess if you're looking for a deck to still qualify for the RCQ or qualify for the RC, I would take a look at my channel between a short and a video I did on Mono Blue Belcher. I quite literally built the deck on Friday, got all the cards for it and things like that, and then took it to a tournament on Sunday and was able to win. I beat Boros Energy 3 times in my tournament. It did not feel like a close matchup. Basically, the games I lost in that matchup were games where I kept bad hands and should have just mulliganed more aggressively. It's almost essentially a bye against that deck, especially game 1. They don't know what you're doing. Game 2 and 3 is a little bit harder because they'll try to keep way more aggressive hands against you, but they really don't have a sideboard plan for you. And it's definitely something you should probably pick up if you're just trying to quickly queue for the RCQ or for the RC. Coming up here in February and March.
And before Boros Energy decides to play 4 Urza Saga and then 1 Pithing Needle in their deck, so they can try to Needle Belcher.
Exactly.
And then they get around your counter spells.
Exactly. But Mono Blue Belcher feels super good in the kind of degenerate format we're in right now with what's going on. I also was able to put I played a suboptimal version of the deck as well, where I wasn't playing 4 Seagate Restoration because I couldn't find them. No one around me had Seagate Restoration, so I was playing the one that Dakota had, and then I was not playing 4 Pack Negation. I was able to get a hold of 1. Again, no shop around me had any, and I was awesome. I was I'm gonna play this subpar deck and lose, and then it just didn't matter. I was just still super far ahead most of my games, and was it the only game I dropped in the Swiss was to a Titan deck that was playing main deck Karn. I was awesome. I was this hasn't been a thing for 4 years. Why wouldn't I play against it?
Exactly.
But deck feels great. It's definitely something you should look at if you're just trying to spike an RCQ real quick.
For sure. Well, alrighty. I guess if that's it, then we'll kind of put a nice little bow on this episode. Of course, if you are watching this the weekend it comes out, or even the day it comes out, please go watch the World Championship. So far, the matches in the limited rounds and the Swiss rounds have been amazing. Coverage has been awesome as always. Be sure to check it out. They always put on a great show. Plus, sometimes they do kind of give some exclusive, like spoilery type things during coverage as well. So be on the lookout for those. Of course, if you've made it this far, thank you for supporting the channel. Of course, thank you also for those of you in the future that end up finding the Casual Spikes YouTube channel and going and subscribing over there as well to kind of help grow that channel and have it be its own separate brand from, I guess from my channel here. So I do greatly appreciate all that stuff. I know Randy appreciates it as well on some level.
Yes, I do. I appreciate the people who tune in and watch us every week, make kind of a fools of ourselves, and listen to me make some wild predictions, and basically ensure that Wizards will never support me in any way, shape, or form ever.
Also, being thoroughly derailed at any point.
Yes.
But with all that said, go ahead, check out our individual channels. They'll be linked in the description down below. Of course, with the Casual Spikes YouTube channel, also eventually linked there once I get around to doing it. I might end up editing this video and then taking a nap. I am exhausted. I think that's called bed, but for night shift people, it's just a nap because you never get caught up.
That's fair. Luckily, I work day shift. The problem is I also work the worst scheduling. So
true.
It's all good.
Well, all right. Have a good night, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Of course, subscribe to our channels. Continue to show support. We thank you all very much for tuning in and watching. Greatly appreciate the company, everything like that. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, and you want them potentially featured on the podcast, please leave them in the comment section down below. And with all that said, we're going to wrap it up here. Have a good night, everyone, and hopefully you all enjoy watching the World Championship, and be on the lookout next week on the new YouTube channel, our kind of wrap-up and summary of the Magic World Championship, and maybe potentially some cool stuff for the competitive season in 2025.
Yes, hopefully.
Well, see you later, everyone.
Bye.
Boom!